Each year in the United Kingdom, according to the UK government's own figures, nearly 3 million animals are poisoned, surgically injured, driven insane, burnt, irradiated, starved, electrocuted, and kept in solitary confinement for long periods of time in experiments which most people would have trouble conceiving. Animals are used in this manner by the pharmaceutical and chemical industries, universities and private research institutions, and by the military in the testing of new weapons, be they conventional, nuclear, or biological. Although the vast majority of animals used are rats and mice, monkeys, cats, dogs, birds, fish, horses, farm animals, and many other species are routinely used. This is the secret world of vivisection, a term which literally means the cutting of live animals, but which today generally applies to all experiments on living animals. Animals are used in research purportedly to help find cures or treatments for human diseases or to provide assurances of safety in the testing of drugs, household or industrial chemicals, cosmetics, or other substances that might potentially be a hazard to human health. It is a massive worldwide industry involving the deaths of countless millions of animals each year. The fundamental stance against vivisection by many people is simple, that it is morally wrong to torture and kill animals, and in an ideal world this would be the end of the matter. However, those who defend vivisection have a different version of morality, one that states that if a species or race considers itself superior, that is sufficient reason to use supposedly lesser creatures in whichever way it thinks fit. However, it is an unfortunate fact that many people, taken in by a relentless stream of propaganda from an industry-beholden media, are convinced that the solution to the diseases plaguing mankind is through animal experimentation, and that the whole argument is one of animal rights versus human rights. Unfortunately, it is, however, a fact that those who benefit from vivisection's continuation are very happy with the notion of animal rights, knowing full well that this in no way challenges the existence of vivisection, and that the vast majority of people will always put human beings before animals. Indeed, it's common to hear the defenders of vivisection ask, which is it to be, the health of these sick babies, or the lives of a few dirty lab rats? And this, for most people, is the end of the discussion. The genuine anti-vivisection movement, however, refuses to get caught up in this endless moral debate, knowing full well that there are sound scientific, medical, environmental, and economic arguments against vivisection, arguments that, if made common knowledge, would swiftly bring about its total abolition. It also refuses to get caught up in any discussions about alternatives to animal experiments. There can never be any alternative to something as fundamentally useless and misleading as vivisection. The only true alternative is the total abolition of vivisection and its replacement with genuine research methods that in no way can be compared to the sham of animal experimentation. That vivisection has been able to survive for over 100 years and has grown into the massive industry that it is today is due to two essential factors: secrecy and deception. If vivisection is such a beneficial, humane practice as we are constantly assured it is, and performed by caring individuals whose motives are purely altruistic, why is the practice surrounded by this wall of secrecy and deception, which ensures that most people are deliberately left unaware of what happens in their name and often with their money? Those opposed to vivisection are often accused of being opposed to medical progress. But in reality, many of those who speak out against vivisection do so in the knowledge that vivisection, as well as being unforgivably cruel to animals, is so misleading as to be hazardous to human health. Indeed, within the medical profession itself, there is a growing movement of doctors and scientists prepared to speak out against animal experiments, and groups of doctors opposed to vivisection exist in many countries, including Britain, with Doctors and Lawyers for Responsible Medicine. In fact, there is a long history of those within the medical profession who have been opposed to animal research. More recently, a survey commissioned by Europeans for Medical Progress of 500 general practitioners in August 2004 showed a staggering level of distrust in results obtained from animal experiments, with 82% concerned that animal data can be misleading when applied to humans, and 83% supporting an independent scientific evaluation of the clinical relevance of animal experimentation.
Well, for the benefit of medical science, I agree that vivisection or animal experimentation should be stopped. And there are a lot of reasons to that. The most important is that it is simply misleading, and the past and the present both testify to this. The animals are unique in their own ways. Every creature is, but they are not exactly like the human model. They're different. So the great advances that brought us where we are, they do not owe their existence to animal experimentation, period. And I firmly believe that animal experimentation does inevitably leads to human experimentation, something that we want to avoid. In order to eliminate vivisection, the best way to go is to educate ourselves, our own families, our friends, our work colleagues, our community, the world at large. They should know the facts as they are. I do certainly agree that animal experimentation or vivisection should be abolished for the reasons I just mentioned.
Scrutiny of the facts does not substantiate the claims of those who say that animal research is a necessary evil. In reality, there is no choice to be made between babies or dogs, as the advocates of vivisection would have us believe, but simply a choice between genuine science and false science. One certainly does not need to be an expert to realize that vivisection is, as described by ex-vivisector and author of Vivisection or Science, Professor Pietro Croce, a methodological error which has led medicine astray and which ultimately can never be of benefit to people. The reasons for this are fundamental. For instance, vivisectors attempt to learn more about the human immune system, the inbuilt system that protects us from disease, by experimenting on animals. But the immune system of animals is different to that of humans. Dogs are able to drink from muddy puddles without harm, while cats are able to clean themselves by licking dirt from their bodies, and rats are able to thrive in the filth of the sewers. But not only is the human immune system different from animals, so is the human cardiovascular system. The structure of our skin and eyes, muscles and bones are also different. We're also different socially and have different dietary needs. All species are different genetically. Third false claim in support of vivisection is that it is possible to predict human reaction to drugs and other chemical substances by testing them in animals. However, animals can in no way predict the human response to drugs due to differences in the way each species will react to them, and the different rates at which drugs are eliminated from their bodies. In the UK, all drugs are first tested on animals before they're given to people. The consequence of this is that the newspapers are, on an almost daily basis, reporting the removal of one drug or another following adverse effects in people having led to horrific side effects, injury and death. In 2004 it was reported in the press that prescribed drugs were the cause of 10,000 deaths in the UK each year, and in 2006 that as many as 250,000 people in Britain are hospitalized annually because of prescribed drugs at a cost of some £466 million. Needless to say, all these drugs will have undergone extensive animal testing. It has also been reported in highly regarded publications such as the British Medical Journal, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and New Scientist that prescribed animal safety-tested drugs are the third and fourth biggest cause of death in the United States and UK respectively. One of the most recent examples of animal-tested drugs that have gone on to cause damage to human health is Vioxx. Manufactured by drug company Merck & Co. and prescribed for the treatment of arthritis and other conditions, it was shown to be both beneficial and safe in animal tests, and yet went on to being suspected of causing as many as 140,000 strokes and heart attacks in human beings before being withdrawn. However, there have been many other drugs which have been found safe in animal tests and have subsequently killed and injured people. And some studies have shown that the figure of 10,000 deaths each year from prescribed drugs in the UK could in fact be much higher. One can only guess at the number of people who have needlessly died and will continue to die due to this reliance upon the false methodology of vivisection. In 2006, there was widespread news coverage of the 6 men who suffered multiple organ failure in the testing of a new drug, TGN-1412. This had been tested on rats and monkeys and found safe in doses 100 times greater than those eventually given to the human volunteers. Of course, the very fact that drugs must go on to clinical trials after the animal studies is proof in itself that animal testing is no guarantee of safety, and that ultimately human beings are the real guinea pig. In fact, the whole purpose of the safety testing of drugs and other chemicals on animals is to provide an alibi when they go on to kill and damage human beings. Then it can be said that all the required safety testing has been done, thus ensuring drug companies do not face criminal charges. Animal testing is done for legal reasons and not for safety reasons, and this is proven by the fact that substances shown to be hazardous to animals still find their way onto the market. The reason for this is simple. Animal tests are meaningless in regards to human health. Animals do react differently to humans and indeed to other animals to drugs and other substances. Not only that, but there can be huge differences in the way members of the same species react to a substance depending upon age and sex. What might be safe for a mature adult might be dangerous for a child, whilst that which is safe for men might well be dangerous to women. How much, then, must the differences be in the reaction to drugs between members of different species? Says Professor Crochet, the amanita mushroom, which is deadly to human beings, is a delicacy for rabbits. Lemons, when fed to cats, will kill them, as will the common aspirin. Prussic acid, the mere smell of which can kill a human, is a fine aperitif for toads and sheep. Strychnine has no effect at all on guinea pigs, chickens, or monkeys. Arsenic, a favorite among murderers, can be tolerated in considerable quantities by sheep. And whilst vitamin C is essential for humans, removed from the diet of dogs, cats, or rats, they will nevertheless remain healthy, as their organisms produce their own vitamin C. The list is endless. In the late 50s and early 60s, 10,000 babies were born with birth defects. Responsible for this catastrophe was the drug thalidomide, prescribed for women in the early stages of morning sickness and tested for safety on animals. As reports of malformations began to pile up, vivisectors went back into the laboratory in an attempt at reproducing the malformations in mice. The results were negative, and assurances of the drug's safety were sent to thousands of doctors. Only when it was no longer possible to doubt the drug's true nature in humans was it taken off the market. During the lengthy civil trial of the drug's manufacturers in 1970, numerous court witnesses, all animal experimenters, stated under oath that the results of animal experiments are never valid for human beings. In fact, the manufacturers avoided criminal charges because of this defense, that the results of such experiments are worthless, the very argument that should put paid to all animal experiments once and for all. One of these experts at the trial was the Nobel Prize winner Sir Ernst Boris Chain, who co-discovered the antibacterial effects of penicillin. According to the court records on 2nd February 1970, he stated, "No animal experiment with a medicament, even if it is tested on several animal species, including primates, under all conceivable conditions, can give any guarantee that the medicament tested in this way will behave the same in humans, because in many respects the human is not the same as the animal." Pro-vivisectionists have used the thalidomide tragedy as proof that more animal testing is required, as testing for birth defects was not mandatory prior to thalidomide. However, the truth of the matter is that animal experiments actually delayed the recall of the drug, and that subsequent animal testing has shown it to be almost impossible to induce these malformations in laboratory animals, including various strains of mice, rabbits, dogs, hamsters, primates, cats, armadillos, guinea pigs, swine, and ferrets. Only in one or two certain rare breeds of rabbit, and occasionally primates, were malformations induced, and only then when the drug was given in massive doses.
It never ceases to amaze me that people try to argue that more animal experiments would have prevented thalidomide. It wouldn't have. Here's what happened. Many babies got born like me. They started doing loads of tests on many different species, almost none of which suffered the ill effects of the drug seen in humans. Eventually they discovered that New Zealand white rabbits also gave birth to deformed offspring, but only when they were given ridiculously large amounts of the drug. So it would have come onto the market anyway, even if they'd known about the New Zealand white rabbits, because a vast majority of the species had no ill effects of the drug. The Journal of American Medical Association in 1975 states that it had been established that man is 60 times more sensitive to thalidomide than the mouse, 100 times more than the rat, 200 times more sensitive than the dog, and 700 times more sensitive to thalidomide than the hamster. And those are all species that are very popular with animal experimenters. So what we draw from that is this. Today, if thalidomide was trying to be marketed by some scientists to go onto general release, the weight of evidence from animal experiments would suggest that yes, thalidomide is perfectly safe to use.
Since thalidomide, all drugs and thousands of other chemical substances which find their way into the environment have been tested on animals in an attempt at avoiding human birth defects. In the wake of this increased animal testing, in the 5 years to 2002, birth defects have risen by 50%, with 1 in 16 babies now being born having some type of defect, according to the Birth Defects Foundation. Medical advances have also been delayed for many years due to reliance upon animal experiments, such as the introduction of the antibiotic penicillin, which was initially deemed unsafe due to the results of tests on guinea pigs to which it is hazardous. It was by good luck that in the initial toxicity tests we used mice, because if we had used guinea pigs, we would have concluded that penicillin is toxic. Sir Howard Florey. Meanwhile, misleading animal experiments have often been hazardous to human health in other ways. One example being the knowledge of the dangers surrounding smoking, which was delayed because of misleading results of tests on animals. We are told by those who defend animal experiments that vaccines have been responsible for the eradication of infectious diseases, and thus we owe an enormous debt to the role of animals in their development. In reality, vaccines were not responsible for the decline in infectious diseases, which was accomplished largely due to improved social factors, housing, sanitation and nutrition. As can be seen in the following graphs, the diseases were well into decline, and in some cases almost off the graph, before the introduction of the vaccines. The suggestion on the part of the vivisectors that vaccines derived from experiments on animals have been the cause of the decline of infectious diseases is simply not true. Furthermore, there is evidence to suggest that vaccination might well be responsible for a worldwide epidemic of immune and autoimmune disease conditions, encephalitis, autism, asthma, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, ME, diabetes, meningitis, cot death, learning and behavioral problems, social violence, and criminality. Concerned parents are advised to learn more about this subject before deciding whether to have their children vaccinated. And there are numerous good websites and books on this subject, with Vaccines, Are They Really Safe and Effective? By Neil Z. Miller being particularly recommended.
When it comes to animal experimentation and diabetes research, the key thing to remember is the golden rule of vivisection, that no results from animal experiments can ever be reliably transferred to human beings. There are too many unpredictable physiological differences. Now, when Banting and Best did their horrendously cruel dog experiments in the early 1920s, they succeeded in producing a form of insulin that was actually harmful to the first human patient who tried it, a 14-year-old boy called Leonard Thompson. That injury to that patient had not been predicted by the animal experiment. In fact, the basic foundational knowledge regarding diabetes was established through the study of human beings, not animals. Animal experimentation can never give reliable, dependable results for application to human health research. It couldn't do so 100 years ago, and it cannot do so today. The practice is morally and medically bankrupt. It should be stopped, and stopped now.
But it is not just pharmaceutical drugs which are damaging human health. Hundreds of thousands of combinations of medical, industrial, military and agricultural synthetic toxins are in the air, ground, water and food, killing and poisoning people, animals and the environment alike. Many of these chemicals reached the market through fraudulent tests of safety and efficiency on animals. Since America's war on cancer in the 1970s, based largely on animal research, the disease has rocketed. In the Western world, it now afflicts 40% of the population, with the World Health Organization predicting that cancer is likely to increase by up to 50% worldwide by 2020.
The cancer plague has risen parallel with the environmental deluge of synthetics. Thousands of medical, industrial, military, agricultural chemicals, which have all appeared onto the market through the same channel, safety tests on animals. Worldwide, man, woman, child, bird, fish, cat, dog, rivers, lakes, trees, areas of the planet are being killed, damaged by this deluge. In cancer research, a previously healthy but frightened rodent, rabbit, dog, cat, whatever, is subject to various procedures which produce artificial tumours. These tumours have nothing whatsoever to spontaneously occurring human cancer. They then proceed to suppress or remove these tumours with petrochemical synthetics, and they will tell you with a perfectly straight face that this nonsense is cancer research. According to Dr. Erwin Debros, PhD, former Director of Biostatistics at Russell Park Memorial, from a scientific standpoint, animal models systems in cancer research have been a total failure. They not only kill animals, they also kill humans. There is no good factual evidence to show that the use of animals in cancer research has led to the prevention or cure of a single human cancer. In the ancient wisdom, Morley Stainer wrote, "Still the money pours in for cancer research from kind-hearted, well-meaning people, in spite of the fact that the much advertised cures and discoveries invariably turn out year after year to be no cure at all, but rather an aggravation of the trouble. The proof of this being the steady increase of the disease on all sides. Surely there should be some result to show as a partial excuse for the torturing of so many animals. The public still does not realise that nothing is likely to happen, no progress even possible, whilst the research is done on demonstrably wrong lines." The critical point about this quote is that it is from the year 1940. Essentially, the situation is the same as it was 66 years ago, except of course for the massive increase in cancer statistics.
Although the causes of most diseases are well known, practically no money is allocated to their prevention, the most obvious and beneficial route to take, except to the drugs, chemical and medical establishments, that is. There is no money to be made from a healthy population. The only direction we can go in if we are to reverse this ever-encroaching tide of disease is through disease prevention, and when health has broken down, by engaging in genuine clinical research methods, truly applicable to human beings and their health problems. This is, of course, the opposite direction to that which we are going now, which relies on the ludicrous attempt at creating artificial sickness in once healthy animals. You have the power to change the face of medicine forever, where compassion and true science and a real healthcare system will replace the fraudulent practice of animal experimentation. Learn all you can about vivisection and share this information with others. Read Hans Rusch's books Slaughter of the Innocent and Naked Empress, and the numerous other good books available on this subject. Avoid charities that use your money to finance vivisection, and always look for the cruelty-free logo on your cosmetic and household products. Show this film to as many people as you can. Make sure your Member of Parliament knows that you're demanding the total abolition of vivisection on scientific and medical grounds. Finally, visit the BAVA website for more information on vivisection and further ways in which you can help. Thank you for caring.